Welcome to the Making Money in the Music Business podcast, where we share insightful views on a variety of topics in the music industry that can help you make more money from your music business. And now, here are your hosts, Dr. William E. Smith and Kenya McGuire-Johnson. In this podcast episode, I apologize for the quality of the recording. For some reason, my program and the recording unit that I use had some glitches, and I didn't notice it until the end of the podcast. So the sound quality of my voice sounds like I'm on the telephone, while Kenya's voice is loud and clear. So we didn't want to re-record the episode because the information was too valuable. So hopefully you can overlook the sound recording quality, and everything will be clear and audible. And so hopefully you get a lot out of this podcast, and we'll be having another one coming up soon. Thanks.
We're back, Kenya.
We're back, Will. How are you this week? How are you feeling?
I am recovering from jet lag.
Oh, Will, when you have a leisurely life and you have to travel all the way to Alaska, hint, hint is where he went, then there are some consequences. There are.
Yeah, it's a beautiful consequence.
I'd say so.
Yeah, it was a great trip. Beautiful seeing the sights of Alaska, being on the cruise ship. So I had a great time.
That's fantastic. That's a place. That's a bucket list place. I need to get to Alaska. That is on my list. I've never been there. So
yeah, a lot of people don't get that.
Yeah.
They don't get to go there. Yeah. I think one of the most beautiful things was being at sea, looking at the mountains on the longest day of the year.
I saw that post you made. That's fascinating.
The midnight sun.
Yeah, That was fascinating. Very cool.
So, yep.
Well, it's time to wake up. You got to work
Well,
now. You got to work. You got to talk to the peoples.
Gotta work.
Talk to the peoples.
So for today's episode, we are at episode 7.
Episode 7. Excellent.
Today's episode, I wanted to talk about something that I'm growing in my own business, and it is music licensing.
I'm so glad you picked this topic because I think you may be way more of a pro on this than I am, because that's a space that I've done some of it, but I would love to, pick your brain. And I'm sure the audience is going to want to learn more about how, especially the baby steps, the beginning. What is that, first of all? And what do you do to make that happen?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't claim to be a pro because I'm still, like I said, growing in that area of my business. But I would definitely say I've had some successes, and it's been great to see those successes grow on their own. And that's actually true passive income. Once you crack that nut, that's really where it is.
Absolutely.
So, I think the blessing for me was just meeting the right people.
Yeah.
And I think that's also part of a strategy that people need to start putting into place, is going to events or going to a lot of places where they can be in the mix, where they can meet people that are doing those types of things. So
I might have to be the one asking you questions today, because I think you're going to have more experience in this, because I'm kind of a novice in this music licensing world a bit. But because as you start speaking, I got all kinds of questions popping in my head. But let's talk about it.
Okay. So what, just as a question for you, what have you accomplished in that area? What have you gotten?
Minimal.
Minimal.
Well,
Okay.
I guess we should talk about maybe, and I may let you lead this. Just kind of giving, because I think sometimes people get a little confused of what music licensing means. Like, what is that? It's a buzzword. You hear it. I think there's some assumptions around it. I think people automatically think, oh, that just means your song is on a movie and that's it. How would you describe, just so that our listeners understand the context as we start talking about this, what music licensing really means?
Okay, well, it's basically you're giving a license to somebody to use your music, and they're going to pay you for that license. And it could be a one-off payment for that license, or it could be a continual payment for that license, or you could not even get paid by the person you're giving the license to. And what you'll do is you'll receive royalty payments through your performing rights organization.
Right.
So that's sort of the conversation of what licensing is.
Right.
And there's sort of a subset of that called sync licensing, which is when your music is synchronized to video. And that's when you're having you're getting your music on TV, movies, video games, other things that are video related. Radio is not necessarily sync licensing because there's no video.
Right.
So
see, and I bet you a lot of people didn't understand that is a subgroup of music licensing. Because again, I think I get a lot of clients who will mention music licensing, and I think the automatic, like I just said, assumption is just the video portion, the movie, the TV. So that's helpful to kind of be able to separate that. Yeah. I think that for me, I will say I haven't been as aggressive maybe in seeking music licensing, which may be why it's a little bit limited. What I do have, I will say though, that I do have a deal. There's a music, I guess, I don't know what you want to call them, platform or agency that licenses music called Moods. I think it's Moods Media or Moods Music Media. And what they do is they basically, yes, they will find music from artists, and they place music in from your major department stores like your Macy's or your Nordstrom's to your other drugstores like Walgreens and CVS, and they're basically the hub for placing the music, and what they will do, placing the music in those places. And then so I do have a deal. I do have a music licensing agreement with them, and it's kind of cool because I get people very frequently saying, I heard your song in Walgreens. I heard, and clearly they're playing it a lot in Walgreens, because from Maryland, Washington, D.C. area, I've had family members tell me they heard it. To here in Illinois, where I'm based, I've heard, been told that they've heard it. To down south in Atlanta, I was told that. And so clearly that's a space where Walgreens, I'm hitting it hard with Walgreens, but no, I'll take it. I'll take it. So I would say that's probably my most, when you asked about my experience with it, that they sought me out. I had started getting my music played on radio, and one of my songs did pretty well. This song called Let Me, that did very well on smooth jazz networks and radio and different stations kind of across internationally, really, but definitely here in the States as well. And so they approached me and asked if I would be willing to do a deal with them. So that's when I called my attorney. We talked about that team in podcast 6.
That team.
And my attorney, after much kind of going back and forth, they worked it out. So yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely one level, one way of doing it. I haven't even gotten that. I mean, I don't know if I'll be ever approached by a company to do that, but I might be, because there's I just got some good radio play. That's sort of the news for me now. I got some radio picked up this song that I did with an artist named Wayna.
Yeah, I saw that. And Wayna is awesome. I love Wayna. If, those who are listening in, she is. How would you describe Wayna's music so they can have an idea of what it is that you produced or wrote for her? It's
Well, actually, I would say the stuff that I produced is actually different from a lot of the things that she's doing from her. It's not too different. It's still in her genre, which is neo soul,
okay.
but it has a different sound, I think, to it.
Okay.
And I actually did the original version was like a go-go version of the song.
Okay.
Yeah, DC go-go version, and then I did a neo soul version, and then a club version.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a pretty wide-ranging single. It has a lot.
What
of
is the
different things
title?
going
What's
on.
the title of the single?
It's called "Don't Give Up."
Don't Give Up. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
you can find it everywhere, Spotify, whatever you want to go. So yeah, it's I'm pretty happy about the movement and traction that's happening on it right now.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank
We'll do
you.
our one of our upcoming podcasts on radio and we'll be able to dig into that more of how you made that happen. But yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So what I want to say before people start to really seek out licensing, there's something that you need to do with your tracks. And this is key for going forward, just to have anyway. Whenever you finish your recordings and your tracks and you're sending those out to people, whether it be radio, whoever, you always need to have what's called metadata. And what this is all the details of the artist, the name of the song, the track length, and the record label, but most importantly, your performing rights affiliation.
Right. Because you won't get nothing.
Exactly. The reason why people stress metadata is, you want all the other information, because if you win a Grammy, they want to basically know who they need to notify and, give the award to. But you don't get paid if people don't know who your PRO is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
and so performing rights organization. So that's a really good point. And just to give examples of what those are, here in the States, because they do vary depending on, what country, but we're here, so we'll talk about the U.S. There are 3 that are pretty, and if there is a 4th, let me know. But the 3 main ones, there's really 2 really popular. Yeah, there's 2 that are the I would say more popular, but yet the 3rd I think may serve a little bit better. But they are, when you hear the word BMI, and you hear ASCAP or ASCAP, and then CSAC, which is SESAC. Those are kind of those 3 main ones, and and I'll be interested in maybe knowing from you, Will, if you think there's one that's better or people should aim for. But you need to be I wouldn't say there is a wrong one, but you have to have an affiliation with that in order for the collection to happen. Because what happens is, just so that it makes sense, is that when the song is playing, they're not. There's a detector system that's kind of going out there finding it, and it's attached to whatever PRO that the song is tied to. And so if it's not tied to anything, it doesn't have a space then to count what the royalty should be or what the play will be. So.
It used to be an archaic system, which was arbitrary, and people didn't know how people were getting paid. Yeah. Now, since the digital age, it's actually gotten pretty sophisticated, and they can sort of tell what's being played and where it's being played, and they can sort of pay accordingly.
Right.
So
there's also kind of a 4th, I will say, and it's kind of unique. And I don't know if they consider themselves a PRO, or I don't know what they title themselves, but it's very important, and I push it a lot. And that's sound exchange. Sound exchange. When you're talking about being sophisticated with the whole technology, they basically, anybody can register. And they, there's an online process where you register with them. And they more or less make a fingerprint of your name and of who you are as an artist, as a writer, or whatever, however you're labeling yourself when you register. And by fingerprinting that, and what I mean by creating this, basically anytime the fingerprint pops up, then they're able to collect, and this has to be digital. This is complete digital. So when you're talking about your satellite things, like your Sirius XM, when you're talking about any kind of internet play, it basically, whenever it catches the Kenya, McGuire-Johnson being me, or the Kenya as featured artist, and it I don't know all the technology in it, but basically every month I get a little report, and I get a summary and then a very detailed one that basically shows everywhere they were able to detect. And they don't have a perfect system, so there may be some things that are being played that they don't catch, but they're doing a really, really strong job because they're able to. I pretty much am getting a monthly payment from them. So they're another. I don't know if they're kind of really competing kind of hard because the digital age is so strong, and so ASCAP and BMI being the more traditional ones who are used more to the TV and like what these bigger entities that have bigger kind of maybe revenues, they haven't caught up as quickly digitally as your sound exchanges.
The background on these organizations are Sound Exchange is definitely new, and it was established with one of the newer copyright acts, and they were established to collect digital.
Right.
And ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC are sort of the older organizations, and ASCAP actually is the oldest, and BMI was next. And there's a whole history about between them. It goes back to the Payola scandal in the 50s, and it's all this. I teach about all this in my class. So,
nice.
But what ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC collect royalties for TV, film, and live performances. So if you go to any venue in your city that has live performances, look in the window on the bottom corner, and you'll see ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC because they are paying a monthly fee to have live performances in their venue. The reason is any person playing in that venue is more than likely going to play a song represented by ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC.
Right.
So that's how that works. Now, how you get paid was sort of an amorphous concept on how you played a live show and how you got paid. But now, at least BMI, because that's what I'm affiliated with, they have a way for you to list the playlist, your track or your repertoire of your show. And whenever you perform at a venue, you can list the tracks or the songs that you played, and then they can tally that.
Right.
So
that's
one of the things.
That's what I'm familiar with as well. Now, you tell me, maybe I'm wrong on this. Don't they also do they do anything at all with terrestrial radio, like AM, FM, or?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's because, I just want to make sure everybody, I'm like, unless I missed that note. But so TV, your film, your live venues, and then your terrestrial radio.
Yeah, terrestrial, yeah.
And terrestrial radio, obviously, they have to document all their playlists, and, that's part of their system. So that's how that's kind of easily tallied to.
And with
your
TV, it's called a Q sheet. It's called a Q sheet that they submit. The other thing to also think about, ASCAP, BMI, and Sound Exchange are nonprofits.
Right.
CSAC is a for-profit entity.
Right. I always have my phone ringing in the background. I'm going to try to turn it off. But anyway, keep talking. Yes. No, that's a really important point to mention that you have. And I can't stop it. I'm so sorry if people, but as we keep running into this.
I'll edit.
Okay.
I'll say my last statement again.
Okay, hold on. Actually, you know what? It's going to stop in just a second. Okay, we're done. Go ahead.
Okay. I was saying, what did I say? Oh, yeah. CSAC is a for-profit. So ASCAP, BMI, and Sound Exchange are nonprofits, and CSAC is a for-profit.
Right. And, this is starting to turn into a PRO conversation. We're going to do another podcast because there's some things that you need to think about if you're not registered, how to go about deciding which one to register to. And I have some opinions, but I really want to us to make sure we, the music licenses
Cover the
and stuff.
licensing.
Yeah. So, but
So let me get
as
in
you
that.
see, it's really important though, because you're not going to get paid
Right.
unless you
You're not
have
gonna get
that
paid if
piece.
you're not registered.
Right.
So, so the music licensing piece, there's a couple things you can do. First step is there's a lot of online things available right now. There's Music Gateway, and they just started their sync licensing section. They're basically a place where people can go and look for jobs that are being posted, but they also have a space for you to upload your tracks, and they'll actually look for licensing opportunities for you.
Nice.
There's also Jingle Punks, and they've worked well for me. They've been great. And
You said it's Jingle Punks. Is that what you're saying?
Jingle Punks. Yep,
Okay.
Jingle Punks.
All
Yeah, I
right.
know, it's a crazy name. Then there's, I'm trying to remember the other one. There's a couple of them out there. But besides that, there's also places where you can submit your music for other catalogs. And I think Getty and a couple other, the stock images companies had sort of a music thing, and I think they stopped taking submissions. I can't remember, but I have to double check that. But just do some searching on the web for people that are taking submissions for commercial music or music licensing. And when you say commercial music, that's pretty much what you're talking about. You're allowing your music to be used in a commercial space.
Gotcha.
So other than that, there's the networking that you can do.
Okay.
And that's when I tell my college students, I said, this is your network. When you're at college, that's your network. The people around you will be the people in the industry, and you need to, it's also your team, it's also your lawyers, your publicists, all these people. So make your contacts now.
Right.
And that has been the case for me ever since I left college. A lot of the contacts that I have were from the college I went to, Howard University. So one of the people who really hooked me up he actually graduated a few years after me. But he was a music supervisor for Bunham and Murray. And if you ever see that name, that's on Bravo TV, and they do the production for the Kardashians.
That's
all
just
these
a little
other
small thing,
shows.
right? Just a small thing there.
All these other reality TV shows, Real Housewives of Miami, all these, all those shows. So he called me and he said they're putting together a catalog. And just hurry up and send me everything you got. So that's exactly what I did.
Yeah,
and he put my stuff in the catalog, so now it's there. All of my stuff is in their catalog, and I got some placements on Real Housewives of Miami, and I think another thing. So
that was pure
network.
relationship. Yeah, that was pure network,
relationship.
because had you not known him, how were you going to get in that? You know what I mean? How does that happen? So that's huge. That's huge.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what I say about really making use of your network, especially if you're in a university, that's your network. But if you're not, then go to a lot of these conferences, a lot of these events, and the person that you're trying to talk to is the music supervisor. Now, that word is out, so they know that people are hunting them.
Right.
So you have to be, respectful of their space.
And we are definitely going to do a podcast on networking and how you do that, appropriately, because you're right. That's a hot title right now. And but I'm so glad you mentioned attending conferences and things like that, because it's not just about it's not just, you definitely want to go to conferences and these different things to learn. You have to, so everything makes sense. So there's a personal and a professional development. It goes along with going to different conferences and different info sessions and workshops and seminars. And that's important. A lot of people are doing, the podcast, how we're talking, that's kind of a same kind of thing. But that in person, going to a conference and, workshop type of stuff, that network thing is so critical. Yep. Because and so this is why you can't just sit in front of your computer, or you can't just sit and do videos on Instagram. Like, you got to get yourself, and you can't just keep DMing people and say, check me out. No, you need to go to these types of events. And I challenge artists, you should be, especially in your beginning stage, once you kind of start getting more seasoned, you may not be able to receive the same level that you need. But, in your beginning seasons, you want to go to these things so that you can, really start to connect the dots and meet people who connect the dots. Right. It's really cool to meet, Chance the Rapper. Obviously, it would be awesome and dumb and ridiculous to be able to meet him right now, given his status. But who I really want to meet is that team that's behind Chance the Rapper. I mean, he's a part of his team because he's an independent artist. But that team, that group of people that are helping him, and those are the people that attend these conferences. It's the industry people that get there, and they're the people making the decisions on so many different levels. And so, particularly with music licensing, because it is becoming such an important part of the music industry financially, as well as for TV and films, when they're looking at their budgets and how they can, they want to have music and stuff, a lot of them are looking much more to independent artists because it's more economical for them than a major label where they're going to have to, pay boo, to get this artist paid for. You notice on TV and, most films, it's not like you hear a bunch of music you're familiar with. A lot of times it's different. You're kind of Shazamming. I know I'll Shazam a song. Like, what was this? Like, that song was good. And you pops up this name I've never heard of before. And so by going to conferences, networking with the people who are making those decisions and finding out how you can get your music in catalogs the way, William just explained, is really, really important. I cannot urge that enough, because I feel like I'm seeing a lot of people do way more on social media, but not physically engaging themselves.
And you'll be ahead of the curve because nobody's doing that. And if you're, or they've gotten away from that, and you'll be the one that people notice because you'll stand out. Exactly.
And these conferences, are still happening. They are happening, and maybe they're not in your city, but it's worth getting on Southwest Airlines for their really good deal prices, and getting somewhere. Find an Airbnb, find a cousin, find a friend to stay with for 2 nights. And use that investment in yourself. A huge one that's coming up that absolutely is going to have a lot of workshops, I'm certain, about music licensing is CD Baby. CD Baby has it's called a DIY or do-it-yourself music conference that used to be in Chicago yearly when they first kicked it off a few years ago, but now this year they're going to be doing it in Nashville. And that is the weekend, I want to say, of August 25th through the 27th, something like that, or August 24th through the 27th, something like that. The last full weekend of August. So and they make it incredibly affordable. I mean, like, their early bird prices were like $49 or something a day. Like, it was really cheap. It's gone up now because we're getting close to the date. But I don't think it's gone up to the point. They are about the indie artists.
Exactly.
So they're making things incredibly conducive. So if you haven't registered for that, or you've never attended that, I mean, Nashville, obviously that's a really wonderful location for the conference to happen. They try to choose cities that have a lot of music influence. And so, go. And you can hear from not just people just talking about it, but the people who do it, who actually, I've gone to conferences where the person who was in charge of sound exchange, making sure this and that happens, was sitting right in front of me. So that's how I knew, okay, I need to really get on board with this and, understand this better.
Yeah, so, and that's some other key information there, is just being present, getting involved. 2 things I want to say about something that you just talked about. The conferences definitely go to the music conferences, but also go to the film conferences and the media conferences, because most of the people at those other media conferences, it's saturated with film or TV people, and that's the people that you want to be around. So stick your head into those groups, and then you'll stand out. You know, you're basically going against the grain. So find your spot in those places as well. Also, join your local organizations. We'll do a show about organizations, but the Grammy chapters. When I was sitting on the board, the DC chapter of Grammys, I was in meetings with, the president of Sound Exchange, the vice president of BMI. You're sitting at the same table with those individuals. So if you have a question about your tracks and you want clarity on certain things and even just some inside information, they're right there. So, there's a whole, we'll have a whole talk about that.
Definitely want to do that. Yeah, no, that's important. And they're not in every state.
Right.
The Recording Academy is who's in charge of the Grammys. That will be an interesting topic for us to discover, to talk, because I think a lot of people, they just see Grammys and they see the 8 p.m. show, and, they're like, well, I don't like this. And Grammys, don't do this. They don't do that. But there's so much more than that. And that's not to say, that's not to say that there can't be improvements, because I think always there absolutely can be. But the improvements are not going to happen if you're not there. Like, you have to be a part of it to get things moving. So
to say that, there's,
awesome.
There's a section in my book where I talk about this as well. So that's something that people can check out. And this getting licensed deals is definitely the holy grail of the music artist. but just like Indiana Jones, you gotta turn over the stones and dodge a few snakes and scorpions, but you'll find you'll find those golden nuggets here and there, and they're out there. You just got to start looking.
You got to look for them. Well, I think that's awesome. That you've given a lot of really good nuggets in terms of places. You definitely, I don't know, have to provide maybe those links or the websites.
Right. Yeah, I can send that.
You guys need to you guys also can always obviously rewind this and replay it and pause it and write it down and do all that stuff, because he's given some nice spots where you can start beginning to submit your stuff online and looking, and then I mentioned the conference coming up for CD Baby, so go online, jump and look at that. I promise you they're going to have sessions on music licensing, and they're going to present it in a fun and interesting way and cater to the indie artists. So check out, see if you can try to register for that, and if not that, if there's a conflict or something, look for, like what Will said, your local area, any types of organizations or events that may be happening around music industry things. And a lot of times when you're having these conferences or summits, whether it be film or TV or music, music licensing is a big part of that. So you will see that. And the other big thing is there's a huge, and this maybe be one of the last kind of things to kind of talk about here, but there is a massive music industry event that huge networking can occur, and music licensing is kind of the hub of it, is called Mmmb, or I say Mmmb. I don't know, it might be Midem. Yeah. Is it Mmmb or Midem? MIDEM, which is in France. And so you can have an excuse, yes, to go to. I always say this wrong too. Is it Can? I don't know French. Okay, yeah, the CANNES. Okay, anyway, that part of France. Every June, it's usually like that first week of June. So we've missed it already this year. You're too late to go, but I wouldn't say hurry up and get there just because it's an expensive space. But it is kind of the hub for the universal and the more international types of music licensing opportunities.
Yeah, and
you've got a lot of labels. I mean, just so much
Music
representation.
Gateway is based out of the UK, so they have a lot of licensing going on over there. When you talk about international licensing, that's a whole nother pot. But there's so much opportunity there, and especially for American artists because American music is pretty much what's popular. So, I just wanted to give, I guess, a couple examples because I know I just named one, and you were hyping me up saying I had all these placements. I was like, okay.
Well, I was gonna say you just got another one. I thought
BT and Centric. I got some placements. One was on a Soul Train Christmas special, something I can't remember. I gotta.
Oh wow!
Nice. So I'll tell you the thing about this. It's getting in a catalog. It is like Christmas because you don't know when you open up your royalty statements every quarter, you don't know what you got.
Right, you're like, oh God, I know because they don't tell. Right, it's not you get that report.
So that's what when you're in a catalog, that's what happens, and so it's not like I have a relationship with the music supervisor at such and such. That's really not the case. What the case is, I'm in several catalogs, and the beauty of that, things happen. So. It's like the other placements I had was Jimmy Kimmel Show, Steve Harvey, Vice Essentials.
See, I told you were a superstar. Come on now. Everybody is like, oh, no, that's awesome. And that's because you're part of catalogs, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, it's good to have it on the resume. And what it does is actually,
oh my God.
It helps to promote all the other aspects. And I actually have a website set up for commercial music. So hopefully I can get some other accounts just through that, through the cachet of having that. So
yeah, I think we may have to do a part 2 about what kind, or if you have an idea of the kind of music or the kind of sound, or because you have some people who are specifically just trying to aim for that and may not know how their production or how their sound should, what maybe catches an ear, or some helpful tips, when you're trying to submit certain songs, what works, what doesn't, length of song or any of those things.
Yeah, we can devote a podcast to that, but just to basically say, I would say go out and just start paying attention to commercials, to all the music that's in the background of what you're watching, and that's what you need to be making. You need to make music that simulates what you see behind everything else, and then you'll start really getting placements for commercial music. So
good point.
That's it.
Wow. He makes it sound so easy. I know. But I think it's so important because like you said, it is if you can get these opportunities, if you can get in catalogs, you definitely can have some passive income, and then you see it in the form of your royalty checks. I will say that real early in when I first released my very first project, which today, literally, okay, so we pre-record these podcasts, but let's say that on June 29th of 2010 was my anniversary of first releasing my very first album. And when I first released that in 2010, I think again, I was approached again, and I'm not quite sure I don't remember how this all happened, but by an agency that was looking for music to put in their catalog because they, did a lot of placements on things. So I kind of forgot about that because I don't honestly know. I feel like I've never gotten anything placed because I'm like, I don't see any reports of it. But I think that's important to try to at least get on to some catalogs, and then, you just never know, where it can go. And I know for what I did, what I am aware of, and that's being played in Walgreens and those types of things, it was me getting out there and getting my music out there and really solid for radio and all of that they picked it up. So, it all comes down again to product. I say this all the time to clients and to fellow artists. Yes, music licensing, it would be awesome. The placements are great. If you can get synchronization, great, syncing, all that. But if you don't have the product, that's just, and so getting that solid product should still be such an important part of your process to looking at longevity in music.
And I would say just keep making a lot of music.
Yeah.
And do what you love and make a lot of it. And what you would do is you would send, I would sort of test the catalogs, test the sites, and test the opportunities. Send a group of songs, a batch of stuff here, and see which catalog is producing the most. And then you start focusing more efforts on that. And you'll see from your royalty reports, who's winning.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of testing it out. But the only way you can do that is to continually make music and continually submit it.
Right.
And CD Baby, they have the option where you can go CD Baby Pro, and they'll actually sort of put your music in a catalog. Basically, it's available for people to synchronize to their videos. So you'll get some royalties from that. But these other catalogs, just be aware that they not charge you directly, but they'll take their money out of what's paid.
Right, exactly.
So it's the publisher's portion, so they'll get 50% basically of what's being paid.
Right.
Now, if you're good and your music is, you're an A-list artist, you can negotiate. But being an indie, you got to take what you can get.
Right. I was going to say that creates a whole nother topic for us, because it does, that is important to kind of understand that publisher piece and what is right and what's not. And do you give up a song completely? And they're like, look, we'll pay you off this huge amount and then it's theirs forever. And now you've given up your masters. And that's a whole nother, there's a lot of minutia. So I really would highly, 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 please, if this is an area that you're very interested in and an area that you're very intrigued by or really want to learn more, please try to find a music conference, try to find something where you can go to actual sessions and be able to really get more in depth, or look at, Will's book that he mentioned where he has a whole kind of chapter on this, and really, because there's some minutia in this. I don't think it's difficult minutia, but you need to be aware of it so that you are understanding as you begin the networking and as you're beginning the process of this, that you've got a clear picture of what's happening. So educate yourself.
Or contact Creating Crimson and you can book a consultation with me.
That was gonna be my last thing is absolutely we can have a whole session talking about this, and me just being able to get a little bit more information from what your situation is so that I can direct you, as necessary. You may hear a lawnmower now. I just have a lot of activity happening behind my little home office.
Your world is happening, girl.
I can't tell the lawnmower. That just means you've been talking too long, kid. But yes, no, please contact. We always like to end. And I do want to, just make sure everybody understands I am a musician. I'm a singer, songwriter, but I also have a master's degree in counseling. So coaching is very close to my heart. I used to be in education as well, in higher ed teaching. And so, I've combined all of those forces to Creating Crimson. And our whole goal with Creating Crimson is to help artists however we can. And so the one-on-one coaching obviously is a more personalized way, but we've got some really good, very inexpensive, very affordable rates right now in order to get coaching where it would just be me and you. And I offer a completely free consultation for 30 minutes on the phone. If, just to introduce, for you to introduce who you are to me and for me to tell you a little bit more about Creating Crimson and squeeze in a topic that we can cover. And just so you get a feel of what this is, I think a lot of times people don't maybe understand what coaching means and, all of that. And so they may just not engage. But that's why I do these free consultations initially, just to get everybody comfortable and familiar. So if you just email info@creatingcrimson.com, You can let me know if you want to set that up, or you can just visit the website, creatingcrimson.com, and there's a contact form that you can scroll down, fill that out, and we'll contact you that way too.
Yep. And you can email me at drwsmith@makingmoneyinthemusicbiz.com. And I also have services where I will actually register your music for you. So,
and I actually was going to bring that up. I'm glad you said, okay, yep, go ahead, finish. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you need copyright registration or BMI registration or even CD Baby registration, I will handle all that for you, and you can check out my website at makingmoneyinthemusicbiz.com for more information on that. But it's a very detailed process, and to make sure you're dotting all your I's and crossing your T's, it can be kind of stressful. But I'm here to help alleviate some of that if you need my services. So whatever you need.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to mention that, and then we'll kind of wrap this up. Yes. That's called being a publishing administrator, and I have one. I have one. It's not my wonderful friend Will. I actually have a person. Her name is Paige Martin, but she's a publishing administrator, and she saves me. She saves me because it's a very detailed process. It's not something you can't do, but it's not. Don't just think you're going to go hop on, during your little break at work. I mean, it's a process.
Right.
Yeah, it's a process.
Right. So, yeah. Okay. You got to know how to navigate it. So, great. Well, this has been a really good one. Yeah,
lots of really good nuggets. Lots of wonderful information that absolutely contributes to making money in the music. That's what this podcast is about.
Making money in music business.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Well, thank you.
Perfect. All right. We'll see you next week.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.